Could could we have more second keys of the second keys in the monitors on stage? Yes, Kira. So we're going to move into our next session, which is making a song, which is part of the creative part of today's jam, creative session, whatever you want to call it. And Dion is going to help us with that.
Yeah, is anybody here an aspiring professional musician? Okay. Yeah, so I was kind of expecting to basically answer more, and I'd love to basically impart at least my experience now, so that, yeah, it's just to help you guys. So, yeah, please do feel free to ask some questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. Should you have any? Yes?
What tips would you give to like breaking out into the music industry?
What? Sorry, say again.
What tips would you give to breaking out into the music industry?
Very good question. Give her a round of applause. I think those are the kinds of questions I want. Advice I would give for people that are looking to break into the music industry, I think, first of all, decide what it is that you want to do with music first. This is often, not often, but a mistake that I've made often. So I'll give you an example. So my faith is Christian, and have been since I was 19, I would say. And in terms of coming to the faith, and with that, I think comes challenges in terms of what environment or what kind of music I'd be comfortable playing and performing. So much so that sometimes you cross that path inevitably, and sometimes a lot of time you have foresight to say, do you know what, is this for me? Is this not for me? Kind of thing. One thing, because I was into a little bit of film composing as well, and this film composer who, I don't think it was faith-based at all, but he asked a very, very good question. He said to the group that he was talking to, how many people would feel comfortable composing music for a film about Jesus? And everyone put their hand up. And he said, right, how many of you guys would feel comfortable writing music about Jesus wearing women's costumes and makeup and stuff like that? And then more hands went down, and a couple of stayed up. And the lesson that he gave then was like, look, that only make sure that you're only taking on projects that you are fully invested in and fully comfortable doing. There's no point in getting yourself in a situation where you're just like, no, I don't really want to do this, because it's an expensive industry. It wastes a lot of money. There was, in that same illustration he gave, he said that one mistake ended up costing over 10 grand, because there was a mistake in the music in and of itself, and then they had to, pay to get the producer to fix it, the composer to fix it, and then they had to pay the musicians that were just sitting around it for the extra time they had to wait, and, So all of these things can be, I think, thought through, and it's not a straight path. Sometimes you're going to take things on, and you're going to be like, like I've done, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not going to do this gig anymore, and hand it off. And then sometimes you're going to take gigs, and you're just like, and you're going to turn down gigs, and you're just like, actually, do you know what? I was actually okay with that. I don't know why with fresh. So decide exactly what you're comfortable with, where you're comfortable playing, who you're comfortable playing with. Even beyond that, what style of music is the kind of music you like to play. There's no point in trying to seek to become a funk musician if your thing is classical or folk or whatever. Nothing wrong with working in that environment. Yeah, sure. I'm not a pop keyboard player, but I've done pop gigs before. I'm not a classical pianist, but if I had the opportunity to perform classical music, I would take the opportunity to learn it as in discipline, learn a new discipline. But yeah, just making sure that you know what it is that you are, what is your product, what you're trying to market. Then once you've sort of answered those questions, then start hanging around the environments that are most conducive to what you want to do. If you are a singer-songwriter, hang around with singer-songwriters. Go to coffee houses, coffee bars where they play that kind of music. Hang out there, meet people. Don't just network and meet people that just do what you do, though, and that's a mistake I made. So, for example, as a piano player, I shouldn't just really be hanging out with only piano players. As a musician, if I want to market a product, I should not be just hanging out with musicians and connecting with musicians. Not a bad idea, definitely hang out with musicians, but there's people that work in the music industry is not just musicians. A&Rs, meet them, meet some record labels, meet and make connections, understand the business, and talk to people who work in marketing, people who work in finance, and pick their brains. Everybody's got something valuable to give. But hang out, meet people. If you're an introvert like me, somewhat, I'm more towards the introvert side of the spectrum, but find a way to kind of slowly break out of that. I'm not saying have a double personality. I'm not saying change who you are, but part of being able to network, people are going to only know you play bass if you go and play bass in places. If you're just secretly in your room playing and nobody gets to hear that except your family, which is not bad, but ultimately, if you want to do more with it, then you're going to have to branch out. So yeah, that's how I'd answer that question. Next.
Have you ever had to deal with rejection, and how did you handle it?
All the time, I cried.
Yeah, say
He asked me what team I support. Okay, no, joke.
Have you ever had to deal with rejection? How would you like go about it or handle it, especially as a musician? Where
Yeah, it mostly happened with me, with girls in secondary school. No, I'm joking. I was always too introverted to speak to girls when I was in school. So my wife picked me out and she made me a man. You know, she made me man up and approach her. Approach me. No, I'm trying to think of an instance where I remember rejection. And I could say, while the memory fails at the moment, I would say if you came to a place where you do get, I can actually handle rejection. Yeah, there it is. I did get an experience. Just before I ask that question, though, this mic's very, very hot. Can we reduce maybe either the low frequency or the gain? Testing, 1, 2, testing. Cool, yeah. So my first rejection that I remember experiencing was not getting into Brit School. And I didn't get into Brit School because the campus what I was applying for was in Croydon, and I'm an East London boy, so that was the reason that was given. But really, looking back on it, was I actually really good enough to get into Brit School at the time? Probably, yeah. But there were other piano players that at the time were a lot better than me. So I had to deal with that. The disappointment. I mean, I'm not ungrateful for where I ended up, because where I ended up was not a prestigious establishment for music, but we had really good teachers, and that's the really important thing. Similar to what it was like when I told the story about when I was at Brunel University, not a music institution in and of itself, but I had one really, really good teacher, one good tutor who gave me a really, really good piano, one of the best piano players in the world as a teacher. So you have those experiences. So it doesn't all. So just remembering that, just because one door is closed, that door that you were trying to walk through may not have been the best path for you anyway. And another door opens and you realize, oh, actually, I'm really glad I went down this route in the end. So just bearing things like that in mind. There's always a positive to every negative situation. I mean, I go through things even right now, and I'm just like, where is this going to be positive? I can't see it. That doesn't mean it's not there though. And I think it's a good chance to exercise patience, humility as well. These are qualities you're going to need. Those of us who are gospel musicians in the house, we very recently lost a very, very prominent, at a very young age, prominent drummer called Aaron Spears. And one of the things that Aaron said in a lot of his sort of interviews was, just be nice. We get through life with, just being nice and humble, and having that. We're talking about one of the best drummers ever here that's saying that. And if he's saying that, then ultimately, who are we to be like, okay, well, I'm going to be one of the, the stuck-up ones, one of the, nobody can teach me anything. No. You learn humility sometimes, unfortunately, through going through the fire. This ring that I'm wearing went through fire. It's beautiful. Well, it's dirty now, but it's beautiful. It was beautiful. It's got my wife's name inscribed on it. But it had to, in order to take its shape and its color, it had to go through the fire. So sometimes rejection can be a good thing, and I think just looking at the positive side of it is the best way to do that. Okay. Yeah, man. Oh yeah, well done. I forgot.
for someone that didn't go through any kind of musical education, how important would you say?
Can you speak up a little bit? Sorry.
How important would you say being able to read music fluently is necessary to be a successful musician?
It's necessary. It's necessary, but it's not, the be all and end all. But it's definitely necessary. If you want more work, learn to read. It's not as hard as you think. Start small. The biggest problem, I think, I'll tell you, this gig that I used to do, and I think your dad did one of these gigs actually. It was the House and Garage Orchestra. He did it with the smaller band. One of the most humbling experiences, because I play by ear. I improvise. That's how I play. That's really how all musicians play. All of the great classical composers all improvise. Johann Sebastian Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, Liszt. In fact, mention any classical composer to me, I will tell you they improvise. Why do I know that? Because, and for those of you who were with the session with me this morning, I'm just going to regurgitate the same thing. Improvising is composing. It's the same thing. The only difference is when you're composing, you've got time to sit down, space out, work out your ideas, write them down. improvising, you're doing exactly that, but on the spot. Yeah? But the reason why I think learning to read is important is because obviously it gives you more gigs. But the story I was telling you about, it was with the House and Garage Orchestra. And when I was told about it, I was thinking, okay, we'll probably just be listening to the tunes, listening back, and then, we'll just pick it out and then play it. When I showed up to the first rehearsal, the whole band was there, the rhythm section were there, the horns were there, the string section were there. And I was like, yeah, cool, great. And saw Ben Burrell on conducting. I was like, hey, how you doing, man? Yeah, good, yeah, good. And he goes, yep, right, your folder's on the piano. I went over a folder this thick, full of music, and I opened it up, and I was like, man, I started to sweat. My heart started to beat fast. But then I started looking at it, and I was like, oh, that's just, okay. And I see that shape, that pattern, is repeated in here as well. Oh, and it's there. Oh, and it's there. Okay, well then where's the change? Oh, there's the change. What is that? Oh, okay, yeah, okay, got it. All right, so I can play through this. Okay, great, brilliant. I'll just use it as a reminder of where I should be, which is how you should read. You should not be reading note for note for note for note for note. The same way you read a book, you don't read letter by letter by letter, letter by letter. You see things as a cluster. So thankfully I didn't lose that gig because I was able to do that. But had I not, of course, it wasn't that I just saw music for the first time and was able to read it. It was that, I'd trained prior to be able to do that. But I started with the basics first. Where is middle C on the music? Where is the C where is that C? Okay, it's there, okay. All right, well, how, those two notes together, is that C and E? Okay. Note stacked on top of another note stacked on, okay, that's that cool, okay. Association, the same way a child can look at this and say, light, door, TV, flute, they start, you start to identify shapes and patterns within the music. But the biggest hurdle that you need to get over is humility. Don't start don't cut your cloth according to your cloth size. Don't start now and say, right, I want to start learning how to read music now, and then pull out a Bach organ prelude. That's just stupid. That's some of the most difficult music you can read. Start simple. Get a baby's book. Get with nursery rhymes in it that's only got one staff on it. Learn to tell you, what's that note? What's that note? Find it. Okay, how long does that note last for? Oh, it's that circle one. That must mean it lasts for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, got it. Yeah? And then build. And to the point where that becomes so easy for you, then you're ready to move to the next step. Then get a more difficult book. Then get a more difficult book. Then get a more difficult book. So it's definitely necessary. But that's for getting a plethora of work. Obviously, Ray Charles couldn't read music. Stevie Wonder can't read music. And even the sighted, there are some world-famous musicians, like Phil Collins, who didn't read music. And in fact, really, he had a very stupid way of doing it. Well, I think he was doing a Disney production, and he got the whole orchestra. He's got his own way of writing music, and he got the whole orchestra to learn his way of doing it, which is just so stupid. Just learn how to read music. It's the best thing for you. So I would encourage everybody to do it to some level, some degree. Yeah. We have a hand up next. Somebody around here. Oh no, you were waiting for the mic. Sorry, that's it. Any other questions? Yes.
What work is it that you're doing now at the moment?
Right now, so I run 2 sessions. I've got two jazz classes that I teach on a Saturday, and I've got another session that I teach in the evening on Sundays called Jazz Hand, which is basically helping musicians of this age category, roughly, to play jazz and play in an ensemble. On top of that, I mean, I've got this gig at the Blues Kitchen that I do every Friday. But that was the gig that I've told you I'm stepping away from that one for moral reasons, really. I don't really like the content of the lyrics. To be honest, they bothered me from the start. To be honest, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I have an issue when somebody's singing something so vulgar that you wouldn't even dream of somebody singing that to your mum or your sister or your daughter. And yeah, some people say it's just music, but for me, music means so much more than just wanting to, had to, as a vehicle to express your most explicit desires. Music is art, and art is important. It's precious to me, and I think it should be sort of produced and packaged and given to the world in a respectful way. So that's one of the tough choices I've had to make. But if it's for what I believe in, then it's worth making that decision. But apart from that, I play with various different artists, sort of within the jazz and contemporary jazz sphere. I kind of have an issue with using that word, and because I just find it so limiting. If I just say jazz, what do you guys think of when you hear jazz? Ting, 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 ting. No modern jazz sounds like that, though. I think it was Branford Marsalis, the older brother of Winton, who said that one of the things that categorized early jazz, sort of before the 1950s, was the swing beat and syncopation. Yeah. Which syncopation is not. Syncopation is just basically emphasizing the weaker beats. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. But syncopation, we had it in the Baroque period. In fact, a lot of the rhythms that are played in jazz were inspired and influenced by the rhythms of Baroque music, which is sort of 1600 to 1750. But modern jazz doesn't do that anymore. If you listen to Robert Glasper, listen to his music, Gerald Clayton, Roy Hargrove, they're not doing that stuff anymore. So it changes, it adapts, and I think that's why I don't like to say I'm a jazz pianist. No, I'm a musician, But yeah, I've worked playing a band called Ben Mark. He's a bass player called Neil Charles, but his artist name is Ben Mark. I played with another younger jazz saxophonist called Lewis Daniel, and I'm kind of putting a stop to like working with outside of those two artists, and starting to focus on my own band stuff now. So that's basically encompasses the work that I do. But yeah, I'm taking on more students, private piano students. So yeah, give me a shout if that's something that you may one day be interested in. I also say the piano should be everybody's second instrument, by the way. And I'm not just plugging that so I can get more work from you guys. I say it to everybody. So if I'm going to plug myself, there's only so many students I could take on. But I mean it. This should be your second instrument. Why? Because everything harmonically, melodically is laid out in front. It's such a visual instrument. A lot of professional musicians, whatever instrument, whether it's guitar, whether it's sax, whether it's trumpet, whether you're a vocalist, they come here to work out their ideas. So it definitely should be your second instrument. Cool. Has anybody asked me where I got this beautiful overshirt from? No? Well, I got it from Next, so I think, or was it Top Man? So yeah, I think it's still on sale. Cool. If that's everything, if anybody got any burning questions, they need to, yeah.
How do you practice? Like, how do you sit at piano and restrict yourself from just playing what you want and practicing what you actually need to do?
I think that could possibly be the best question I've been asked today. My practice session, basically what you just said, how do you avoid just playing versus practicing? That's the most important distinction one has to make. Practice should be organized. Practice should sound terrible. Practice should bring you sometimes to tears at how frustrated you're getting because you can't nail this concept, that kind of thing. Whereas performing, that's where it should be perfect. Performing, that's where it should sound good. Practicing is like a bodybuilder going to the gym. When they're working out and you're doing your reps, you're doing your arm curls, you're doing your tricep dips, you're doing your pull-ups, you're doing all that stuff is the gritty, sweaty, hard stuff. And you do all of that to be able to go in front on a platform amongst other men that are just covered in bronze or oil that they put on themselves and show off your muscles. That's what it's supposed to be. Practice is the same thing. So it should be organized. It should be structured. You should have a list. You should have categories. How I do it, I have 3 categories, main categories that I need to cover, and then beneath them are subcategories. My practice time is usually 3 hours. It doesn't have to be the same for you. Yours might be longer. Yours might be shorter. Yeah, but it should hit all of these 3 categories. It should hit all of these areas. I don't do it all at once either. On a given Monday, if I know I've got 3 hours worth of practice, with my lifestyle that I have, wife, 2 kids, other work to do, I can't do 3 hours at one go. So what I do is I say, right, what do I have to do? Can I do an hour now? and then an hour in the afternoon, and then an hour at night? Or can I do 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 20 minutes here, as long as I meet every target? So the three categories are theoretical, oral, and what did I say? Theoretical, oral, and technical, okay? Theoretical, oral, and technical. So technical is the stuff that I have to be at my instrument for. And I've got three subcategories in technical. One is sight reading, another is technique, and another is scales. Those three things. Within technique, if you can hold the mic for me, it'll be things like this. That kind of thing, or exercises. So on and so forth. Next category is scales. Now, I don't practice scales necessarily the conventional way, like. If I'm learning a new scale, I might do it like that. But however, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take every opportunity to be creative. So instead of practicing scales like that, I might do triad pairs. Everything is musical at every given point. And if I'm playing, maybe learning the Mixolydian scale, same concept. That kind of thing. Minor, same thing. Everything is always musical. Sight reading, which is literally I sort of split that in half. So I have sight reading, which is literally somebody puts a piece of sheet music in front of you that you've never seen before, and then practice reading it, note for note. Very, very slow, very, very sort of methodic, thinking about every single thing. And then reading, which is music I have seen before, and start just reading over that again. That's that kind of thing. That kind of takes care of the theoretical side, and the technical side, and that's exclusive to what I do, meaning that how I practice my technical things will look very different to how Kira practices her technical things, very different to how Casa practices his technical things, very different to how Lukey Bear practices his technical things, okay? So, oral now, that encompasses that. This is where I don't need to be at my instrument. One thing is well, I guess transcribing it would help, but transcribing is to hear a lick, hear a phrase, and try and replicate what you hear and put it on your instrument. Very important to do. Everyone should be doing that. It could be a very complicated, Oscar Peterson lick. Something like that. It could be, one lick I copied from, who was it again? Jerry Calderazzo when he was younger. It was. It's been a while since I did it, but it was something like that. These licks, and thinking where I can use it. What was it? Now the point is not to be able to just copy licks for the sake of it. The point of copying and transcribing licks is so you can sort of make it your own and start adding it to your own playing. Transcribing. I practice improvising. Yes, you heard me right. It's not improvising is not just you sat up at your instrument and you're just making stuff as you go along. Practice ideas, practice concepts. Let's say now that Oscar Peterson lick. I'm thinking consciously, where can I use that? Okay, so here's a jazz standard called Green Dolphin Street. All right, so where can I use that Oscar Peterson lick? So. there it was. Oh, the same, a different jazz standard, like It Could Happen to You. There we go. That kind of thing. So practicing these concepts, or could be I'm practicing triad pairs. Let me take that song. I'm practicing these things in as many keys as I can. So repertoire, learning tunes, tune after tune. I like to learn a new jazz standard once a week. I think that's important to do, and listening. So I'll pick an album to listen to and listen intently, active listening. It's not about just doing what most of our family members do, which is to put music on in the background and do the hoovering or shower or brush your teeth. No, you're actively engaging with the music. What is this I'm hearing? What's the drummer doing? Can I at least beatbox the rhythm he's doing? What's the bass player doing? Oh, that sounds like a ding-a-dim, boom, 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 ba-ding, boom. Oh, that's a walking bass line. Cool. What chords might the piano player be using? They don't really sound like that. They sound more like this. Oh, they sound more like fourths. Okay, yeah, he's using fourths. He's stacking fourths. Or she is stacking fourths to create that sound. Okay, brilliant. You're actively engaged with the music. So that's theoretical, technical, oral. Now theoretical, just two more categories in that. Theory, music theory, learning new things. I mentioned something called triad pairs. That's a theoretical concept that I learned from a YouTube jazz channel called Jazz Duets. That's theory. I studied. I learned. He gave his video. He taught what triad pairs are. I took my notes, and that's practice. I don't need to be at my instrument for that. That's universal as well. You can do that on your instrument as well. Or you can do whatever instrument you can play, you can do the same thing, as with all the oral things. And then finally, the last category is interviews and biographies. So I like to know about the people who make this music, what they did, what were the things that they did. You know, what kind of cereal did they have? What was their favorite fruit? You know, where did they hang out? You know, who were their girlfriends or boyfriends? You know, yeah, what kind of hairstyles? I'm mentioning loads of trivial nonsense here, but it's true. I just like to know what was there. I'm not really caring about all their love lives and stuff. I don't really care about that stuff. What I care about is, you know, what led them to be able to be creative and to create the music they did. Why do I like the piano playing so much of Bill Evans? Oh, well, Bill Evans listened to a lot of Claude Debussy, the classical composer. Great, I learned something about that. Why was Herbie Hancock's piano technique so good? Oh, because he studied classical first. Okay, well, brilliant. Because something I learned new about that. Cool, yeah. So organize your practice, have your own list, but they should encompass each of those areas: theoretical, oral, and technical.